here to warn people. You keep telling me to shut up. This isn't a game.
From the front lines of the information war, it's Alex Jones.
Bottom line, we are for human empowerment and crushing of control freaks, criminals, scumbags, and gang grips. And those of you that are weak-minded and like to be part of globalist gangs, well, there's a gang that loves liberty, and we're going to crush you. That's how it always is. Good people just don't imagine all this evil stuff until it gets really bad, and then the giant rises, and you know what happens. All right, let me get into the top story, really, of the day here, other than the huge Bloomberg news. Caught in secret meetings pushing nationwide gun ban after registration. Pretty devastating, in the treachery. I mean, we've caught them in literal racketeering, treacherous activities. Here's the bottom line in a nutshell. The Iranians, if you know the history, in '53, pro-America Mohammad Mossadegh was set up with radical Muslims who were told they'd be given the country. They blew up a bunch of mosques, shot stuff up, claimed Mossadegh was behind them, and used that to overthrow Mossadegh. They executed most of the top military people. Then they brought in the little princeling Shah, who, whose father had been in control previously as the king, under a horrible tyranny. And then he was very oppressive and evil until the late 70s. He was then removed in '79, and out of France and NATO backing, this is on record, the Ayatollah Khomeini was flown in. And then they staged that whole hostage deal and held him until the next Reagan came in. I mean, that's been declassified, folks. That was all staged. That's why they were scared of Reagan. They let him go the day he was elected. Yeah, right. So all of that went on. I'm not even saying Reagan was involved in that. They gave him tow missiles, all these weapons. The deal was Iran-Contra later. Now, it doesn't mean they control or run the Iranians. They just let them get in there, the Shiites. And it's racially based off of the prophet and who can connect back to the prophet. And it's one of the oldest forms of Islam, and it's 20% of Islam. It's arch enemies with the Wahhabis that run Saudi Arabia, and that's Sunni, that's a minority. The Wahhabis of the majority group, about 79% roughly. The other 1% is minority groups, Alawites and others, but that's really a Shiite group as well. The point is, 79% roughly are Sunni. And so that's what this whole proxy war is about, the West backing Saudi Arabia, giving them Syria, so that they can then take out Iran. The problem is Syria has been very friendly, pro-West lately, not done anything wrong, and they've got a big Christian minority being mass murdered by al-Qaeda right now. Now, enter Iran, running videos on their news of blowing up Tel Aviv, blowing up U.S. aircraft carriers, saying they'll attack, sending warships into the ocean on a course for the United States. Here's the Associated Press. Iran says warships headed close to U.S. borders. Iran warships dispatched the Atlantic Ocean will travel close to U.S. maritime borders for the first time, a senior Iranian naval commander said, saying it's a counter to our ships being there. We're barely gotten it where the Pentagon didn't attack Iran months ago and start World War III, and they barely could control Obama. And you got the hawks, the neocons, pushing for war. The Iranians are not crazy doing this. They're in a deal with the neocons, just like they were in the 80s, to do this as a political provocation. I'm breaking down Iran, really turning up the rhetoric about blowing up Tel Aviv, showing simulated videos of missile attacks on Tel Aviv, showing simulated attacks on U.S. aircraft carriers out in the Gulf, out in the Persian Gulf, the Strait of Hormuz. I mean, this is really war provocation. And you had the Iranian Supreme Military Commander, you guys print me that again last week, saying we have sleeper cells inside the U.S. and have asymmetrical warfare, which we know. And the globalists, by the way, would like to have a major war. They would like to be able to nuke Iran. So what is Iran doing? At a higher level, there's double dealing. The Navy wants to get its ships expanded, and that funding's coming up in about a month. The debate's going on right now here in the U.S. Iran wants to be able to keep the fear going, or the mullahs are 70+% in major studies, you can look them up, unpopular. Iran, half their population is under 30, and it's accelerating. They want rock and roll and porno movies, folks. I mean, let's just get down to the truth here. And the point is they really don't like the mullahs, okay? So that's what's going on. And I'm not even saying it's good to want Western culture, but the point is the mullahs are very unpopular, so they want to have more war rhetoric. They don't want the fighting to end. The West doesn't want the fighting to end. Israel's going to be able to use this as a political fodder. But it's too dangerous, folks. That's why the Joint Chiefs would not, told Obama, A, the military knows it's wrong. B, we don't like funding al-Qaeda. Everybody's going public. We are not going to be part of an open air war against Syria. People know the Christians are being persecuted. It's very evil to kick out Assad, who's not doing anything, and who's democratizing slowly but surely, and then put al-Qaeda in. I mean, no, we're going to totally lose our soft power here. Just from a corrupt point of view, this is very discrediting. And what happens when these al-Qaeda people get all the surface-to-air missiles they've gotten from Benghazi and other areas? Well, the Israeli top generals on the record last week, Jerusalem Post, saying they're going to attack Europe and the United States and Israel with them. Because they're not controlled by the West. They're turned loose, folks, like letting King Kong go in a China shop or a bull loose in a China shop. And that's what's going on. And then the globalists, the big bankers and the rest of them, they sit back and manipulate and control the chaos because they run the system. So the bigger the war, the no bid contracts flow. The bigger the war, the more power they get, the more right they can take. Meanwhile, you're destroying competition, destroying our society, threatening World War III. Stop it! You people are bad for business, short-term, mid-term, long-term. Just from a perspective, if I was a globalist, I would not be acting like you people are. You people can't even run nuclear reactors properly. They're leaking everywhere, 91% of them. You people have become delusional. You're lazy. You're control freaks. You're idiots. You have old scores to settle with Western culture you want to destroy. The globalists have hated Western culture that has made them powerful for hundreds of years. They hate the uppityness of it. They hate the Renaissance. They hate people being free. They want to get rid of it because they always have to contend with it. Well, I'm sorry you've got to contend with competition. I'm sorry you've got to contend with innovation. I'm sorry you've got to contend with that, okay? But you do have to contend with it. And I would tell the establishment, stop trying to blow the engine of progress. You people will only bring yourselves down. You cannot bring others down and then not end up having it come back on you. You cannot win at this scenario. If you had wisdom instead of just smarts, you would look 10 steps down, not 3 steps down. You would see where this is leading and you would turn back now. So Iran wants political diversion, so does the West. It's a huge provocation. Iran, don't miscalculate and think Israel won't just nuke you. Alex Jones here with a very important announcement for truth seekers. We've carried a lot of amazing films and books over the years on the online video bookstore at Infowars.com. And out of all the titles we've carried, one stands out because it is just so chillingly convincing. And that's Dreams from My Real Father by Joel Gilbert, available at Infowars.com. This film exposes the fraud that Obama is like nothing I've seen. If you want to know who Obama's real daddy is, this is the film for you. Don't forget, your purchase supports our broadcast and our growing media network. You'll also find at InfoWarsShop.com, None Dare Call a Conspiracy by Gary Allen, the book that woke me up. We're also carrying Behind the Green Mask, You in Agenda 21 by Rosa Corey. This book is coffin nails to the globalist takeover. The Greater Good, the most professional and up-to-date film I've ever seen exposing the scourge that is vaccines. These titles and a lot more are all available at InfoWarsShop.com. I talk about Matt Drudge probably every day because you can't cover the news and not talk about Matt Drudge and his great team over there that are like updating every 2 minutes now. Just stories I can't even keep track of it all. It's like a radio wonderland dream. I've got like 200 articles here I should cover. Problem is I'll go into one of them and go off on a 10-hour jag and not give the phone number out and take your calls. But getting back into the Clintons and Clinton running around raising money off poor black kids and keeping almost all of it for his fleet of jets and houses, and Hillary and all her crimes, not just Benghazi and all the new stuff, but all the things they did. I was a talk show host from 95 when Clinton had only been in for 2 years, right through 2000 when he left office. And I covered him 6 days a week. Because back then I did Saturdays and 5 days a week, weekdays and then Saturdays. So it was natural to go back 6, 7 years ago to doing a Sunday show because I'd already always done a weekend show. Like sometimes I did 7 days a week because if other hosts wanted me to fill in, I wanted to get on air. I wanted to talk about the New World Order. I wanted to warn people. Nobody was talking about this back then, except places like Drudge Report, because they would cover Big Brother and things that were coming. You could kind of see the libertarian, pro-freedom ideas even then on the Drudge Report. And Drudge Report would link to a WorldNet Daily article that I was in and took photos for. So I guess I was on the Drudge Report way back in the mid-'90s, like 97, 98, when black helicopters would, come in and blow up buildings they'd secretly leased to terrorize the public and have psychological warfare people there gauging what Americans would do. I was breaking stuff like that. WorldNet Daily would pick it up. My website didn't look professional enough, to even be linked to, but they would pick up my article and my photos, and WorldNet Daily, he'd link to that. So that's the kind of stuff that Jay Leno talked about as well, about black helicopters in our report, because it was pretty darn interesting. They were crashing in Houston and blowing stuff up in Kingsville and tried to bribe the police chief and then took our video at gunpoint, and that made the news. I mean, and the media would go, look at this crazy guy in Texas. He thinks black helicopters are after him. Except here's Jay Leno. I can't do a good imitation. Except there's one thing that's funny. It really did happen. Yeah. But the issue is that the Hillary papers, to give you an example of what independent free press could do, back in the mid-'90s, 95, 96, when Drudge was rising, and before that, when he had his online newsletter, email, no one was doing what he was doing, which was just real news hound stuff that people were doing 50 years before, 100 years before the hundreds of independent newspapers got bought up by the big four. And he was just, well, this looks interesting, this little piece of news that nobody's covering, or this piece of news I got sent, or this little local story. He was decompartmentalizing. Because, 20 years ago, folks, if somebody in a town shot a burglar coming in their house, the national news would never cover that. Or if an abortion doctor got arrested for being a Satanist and eating dead babies, stories like that in the mid-'90s, that would never be a national story because they wouldn't cover it nationally. So that's what I've been able to do after Drudge did it, but soon after, was cover news globally, just whatever I thought was interesting, whatever I thought exposed tyranny or promoted liberty. I would just, as a natural, free will person with no agenda but freedom, report how I saw things, give my take on things, and really just report the truth of what was going on. No formal training. And Drudge, I don't think, has any formal training, and that's why it was so much better, was because the system is there to basically train you how to conform to their control paradigm that is a micromanaging system. I would liken it to the new Lego movie that has an excellent message. And I literally had 3 people, when I walked out separately, say, I thought you made this movie. I can't believe this. I'm like, no, I didn't make this movie. People that want freedom made this movie and got it out. And now that all of Hollywood is rebelling at every level, they're having trouble putting their message out. Plus, all their anti-freedom movies don't make money now. The revolution's on, folks, but side issue. Everywhere I look at stuff, because I track the news, that Drudge may end up happening. And there's other huge websites out there, but they don't know how to make a story big because they don't know how to pick stories that are really big. Drudge knows when something's important. That's why it becomes big, because it deserves to be big. Guarantee the same reason Drudge links to us all the time, because the stories are not being reported by others, and we're breaking it, and we're credible. We make occasional mistakes, and we own up to what we do, but we're trying to tell the truth, so we're on the Drudge Report routinely. And then I'm just here reading out of the Washington Free Beacon. This has come out of the archive of Hillary papers that no one else will report on but the Washington Beacon. So now it's on Drudge, and now the media will be forced to cover it. And it's so good to not be able to have them ignore us. It's so good to not have these crooks be able to suppress us anymore. And guess what? It turns out that in May of 1992, Stan Greenberg and Celinda Lake, top pollsters for Bill Clinton's presidential campaign, issued a confidential memo. The memo's subject was research on Hillary Clinton. And guess who they were worried about? Their conclusion was voters find slick in Bill Clinton, they find ruthless in Hillary. Fast forward to the mid-'90s, They were circulating memos about Matt Drudge, saying, do we take Matt Drudge seriously? 6 months later, Drudge would break the story of an affair between Clinton and 22-year-old White House intern Monica Lewinsky, setting in motion the events that would lead to the president's impeachment. And then it goes into it up here. It was the reports of him raping women, which he settled these cases, by the way. You don't settle stuff you didn't do in almost every case. Sometimes people do, but in Clinton's case, it happened over and over and over and over again. And I remember all these. This was in the Clinton Chronicles. It was coming out about Tyson Foods, the payoffs, Cattlegate, all of it. And Drudge would simply find these reports regionally, post links to them, or if the newspaper didn't even have a site, he would just write a blurb about what was in that local paper. And then, it totally shook up Clinton and almost shot down their disgusting dynasty. And then it goes over in this report just all the horrible things they did in the Hillary papers to try to suppress the press and anybody that would dare challenge the Clintonistas. And listen, there's a lot of bad people in Washington. But, I mean, the Clintons, I'm sick of looking at them. I'm tired of them. They're disgusting. I think it was CJ said that, and I think he's right, he bets Bill Clinton dies, that they kill him and claim he had a heart attack or something when Hillary starts to run, just because they're not going to want him as a political diversion. And the sympathy factor. Message to Bill Clinton. You already look like a reanimated corpse walking around from all the drugs you've used and the 10,000 women you've had sex with. God knows how many diseases you've got, you rapist. Message to you. I bet you better watch your six, because they're going to want that sympathy vote. And I think you're right. I think they'll try to kill Bill Clinton. I really want to talk about that on air, CJ. Turn your mic on. Because we got a lot of CJs. We got Chris Jordan. We got CJ. We got we call some people Mo around here. It's just because we got we got 3 CJs or something.
There's plenty of us.
There's plenty of us. So why do you think that, for the sympathy vote?
Well, I think she's the obvious candidate because it's what the media is building up. And I think that's the easiest way to usher him in, or to usher her in, is to get the sympathy vote. That way it's plausible, and the machines do the voting anyhow.
That's right. But, America, and it's the first woman. Why are you against women, Alex? Turn your guns in. Except by then, Obamacare will be 4 times more expensive than the previous. Except 4 times over. Except turning your guns in. Except 5-year-olds being taught to dress like girls and the girls like boys. Except forced inoculations. Why do you hate women, Alex? Why do you hate... CJ, why do you hate women to say something like that? I mean, she's a known lying criminal witch that sold out our missile secrets to China and undoubtedly was involved in the murder of Vince Foster and covers up for the serial rapist Bill Clinton, and they steal pension funds everywhere they're involved. They're total criminals. What? Just support Hillary. Be trendy. You want a bumper sticker for Hillary, buddy?
Sure. And Michelle and for Chelsea.
Now, you better like Michelle, pal. You better think she's beautiful because the news media said it. Doesn't matter if she looks like a reanimated vampire snapping turtle. I mean, that woman's like a crazed demon. I mean, bow down to Michelle Obama. I'm going to do it right now.
All right, Abel.
I think Michelle Obama is the sexiest, coolest, most powerful woman I've ever seen. The only reason I said those things about her earlier is because I'm jealous of her. Man, even when I'm joking, lying feels bad. Literally, I just felt ill, and my high on life just went down like 20 points. I apologize. I shouldn't even be sarcastic. Ugh, disgusting. Look at Hillary on Drudge Report right now. Just literally, we're ruled by this sickening, manipulative crone. And if we just admitted she was evil and a con artist and a sickening snake and just rejected her. When she was in the car going in to meet with Obama at Bilderberg during the election in 2008, and the Secret Service held up the MP5. The Secret Service guy looked like a little boy, like he was 25. He had his tie on and everything, and he lifted it up like it was going to scare me, like, ooh. And I'm standing there protesting with a bullhorn in my hand, doing nothing. And like, we're wearing suits, and we're with the government and have earpieces, and look at my gun. Look at my soul, how much bigger it is than yours. Look at how much more honorable and manly I am than you, little boy. You think I'm afraid of your little gun? Strike me down right now, fool, and I will literally become 1,000 times bigger, moron. Beating tyranny is what it's all about. Securing the future for humanity is what it's all about. Little boy in your tie with your earpiece, talking to yourself, walking over trying to intimidate us. The Marines they had flipping us off, trying to set us up, trying to intimidate us. You're a bunch of cowards. You got to be ashamed of yourselves. It'd be one thing if you were guarding these crooks and did it, but to enjoy it and act like we're the enemy because we want to expose a secret meeting that none of the horror press would cover. You know who did cover that 98 meeting? The Drudge Report. And so that's why I love the Drudge Report, because of the courage. And believe me, there is a lot of courage to do this. I get harassed. I guarantee you Drudge does as well. It doesn't matter. Doing the right thing is what it's all about.
Now you can watch the InfoWars Nightly News streaming live as it happens for free.
Check it out at Infowars.com/show.